Today's lesson, solving systems with substitution and elimination. So starting with number 1, how many equations do you see on the board? 2. You see 2 of them. This first one, x is already by itself. X is already by itself. So the method we're going to use is plug it in, okay? So that's the first method we're going to use today. Plug it in, plug it in. What we are going to do is we're going to take this first equation and we're going to plug it into the second one. So if you will draw an arrow to your paper from the x to the x. Draw an arrow on your paper from the x to the x. Okay, what I also want you to do is put the x in parentheses on that second one, and you're going to put this top stuff in parentheses, negative 2y minus 2. And actually, let's change our arrow because I think it'll make a little more sense if we draw it the opposite way. So if you'll erase that, sorry about that. That was a Monday mistake. If you'll draw your arrow from the first parentheses down to the x. So draw your arrow from the top one to the bottom one. Okay, I know this is new, so you're just going to have to bear with it for a while. The first thing I'm going to do is build my frame. So I'm going to put 3, the 3's coming from right there. I'm going to put an empty set of parentheses. I'm going to drop down the minus 2y and drop down the equals 10. So all I did was write this second equation, but I put an empty set of parentheses where the x was. Put an empty set. What I'm going to put in the empty set is that, negative 2y minus 2, because that's what x equals. That's what x equals. Okay, so that's how you set it up. You build your frame, and then you drop it in. Okay, just like we always do in this class, you're going to draw your line when there's an equals. What has to happen with the 3 and the negative 2? What do I do with those two things? Times y. There's parentheses. So I get negative 6y. So make sure you're writing this down, please. And then 3 times negative 2 is negative 6. Do I multiply the 3 times this negative 2y? No, because it's not in parentheses. I just drop it down. You just drop it down. Equals 10. All right, remember my y's are going to stay on the left, and my numbers move over here. So what's the one thing that has to move to the other side? The minus 6, and it becomes what? Plus 6, which is 16. Okay. These are on the same side, so I just combine them. I don't move them, I combine them because they're on the same side. What's negative 6 combined with negative 2? Negative 8. And I'm going to put a y with it. And what do you do last? Divide. All right, what is 16 divided by negative 8? Very good. All right, so as if that wasn't long enough, you're still not done with this problem. You still have to plug it in some more, all right? So now you're going to take this, and we're going to plug it into this top one so that we can figure out what x is. So today we have to figure out what x is and y. We have to get 2 answers for every problem because there's 2 equations. So we have to get 2 answers. We got to get an x equals and a y equals. So I'm going to go back up here. I'm going to write x equals negative 2. But now I know what y is. Now I know what y is. What's y? Y is negative 2. So I'm going to put it in parentheses and then minus 2. There's a lot of negative 2's going on. Okay. All right, right here I'm multiplying. What's negative 2 times negative 2? 4 minus 2? 2. So x is positive 2. X is positive 2. If it was multiple choice, the answer would be written as 2, negative 2. If it was a multiple choice question, that's how they would write the answer. 2, negative 2. Because 2 is your what? What's 2? The x, and negative 2 is the y. So that's how they would write it if it was multiple choice. All right. Number 2, you got 2 equations. Do you notice that there's already a letter by itself? So you use plug it in, plug it in. Whenever there's a letter by itself, you do the plug it in method. Plug it in, plug it in. All right, so put your parentheses around the letter that's been solved for. So this time we're going to put parentheses around y. And we're also going to put parentheses around this top one. And we're going to draw an arrow to plug it in. So you put parentheses around the letter that's been solved for, and parentheses around the whole top part. All right, so let's build our frame. Drop down 4x, drop down the plus 2, and you're going to leave the parentheses open to begin with, equals 16. All right, Brandon, what goes into the parentheses? Which is what? What do I write? Very good. This right here, negative 3x plus 7, goes in the parentheses. All right, we're going to draw our line through the equals. Draw a line through the equals. Shakira, what am I going to do with the 4x? Is it with the parentheses? So I just, yep, very good. Drop it down. Elijah, what do I do with the 2? Do I add or multiply? Multiply, so it gives me negative 6x. What else do I do with the 2? What's that give you? Very good. All right. Stephen A., what's the only thing that has to move to the other side? Yep, and it becomes what? Very good. All right, I'm not moving the 4x and the negative 6x. I'm not moving them. I'm not going to write them underneath each other. I'm not going to do anything but combine them. What's 4 minus 6? Negative 2. You could also do your chart. Positive 4, negative 6. Move it, lose it, gives you negative 2. Okay. All right, what do I do last right here? Divide. Positive 2 divided by negative 2. All right, I'm almost done, but I've only found what x equals. I also have to find what y equals. So I go back up to the one that's been solved. So I'm going to write y equals negative 3. I know what x is. What is x? Negative 1. So I don't write x, I write negative 1 plus 7. Okay. All right, what's negative 3 times negative 1? Positive 3 plus 7. So y equals 10. If it was multiple choice, how would the answer be written, in what order? Very good. Negative 1 and 10 if it was a multiple choice. That's how they would write it. Okay. Number three. One of the equations is already solved. One of the equations is already solved. So we use the plug it in, plug it in. Okay, that's the method you used when one solved. This time, they're in different orders. Put your parentheses around the y and the other one. And we're going to be putting in this into that one. You always put the one that's solved into the other one. Whichever one's solved goes into the other one. Okay, so I'm going to write 12x. So this time I'm going off of the top one. You work with the one that hasn't been solved. That's one you work with. Minus 2. And I'm going to put an empty set equals 3. All right, Ashley, what's going inside of the empty set? Good. And then I draw my line. Draw my line. All right, Madison, what do I do with the 12x? Very good. Stephen A., what do I do with the negative 2? Which gives me negative 12x. And then, Stephen, a negative times a negative is going to be a, very good, positive 10. All right, Riley K., what number has to move? So minus 10. Anybody 3 minus 10? Negative 7. What happens with 12x minus 12x? Does 0 equal negative 7? Is this a true statement? No, that's craziness. The answer to this one is no solution. The answer to this one is no solution. If we would have graphed those two, what would have happened if we would have graphed them? What? Who said it? Samaria. They would have been parallel. Remember that from Friday? If they're parallel, the answer is no solution. Because what happens with parallel lines? They never do what? They never intersect. Okay, so that one's no solution. Okay, you've got one to do on your own. Okay, so the answer to this one is 2, 1. That was the answer to that one, 2, 1. Okay, great, great, great job. Great job on that. Number 1 on the next part. Has one of these been solved for? No, so we have to use a new method. This method is going to be multiply, multiply, cancel, cancel. So write that down. Multiply, multiply, cancel, cancel. Multiply, multiply, cancel, cancel. So that's the method we're going to use on these. So we got 2 different methods we're learning today. It all depends on how it's presented. Okay, so I'm going to have to multiply these in order to get something to cancel. Now, on this first one, you actually don't have to multiply. This one is actually going to allow you to skip the first step because something already cancels. Does anyone see something that if we added them together, they would end up canceling each other out? 2y and negative 2y. So, on this first problem, we're going to skip the multiply, multiply step because something already cancels, cancels. All right? So, put a plus sign right in front. Put a plus sign and draw a line underneath them. So, we're going to add these. We're going to add them. Put a 1 in front of your x. What is 1x plus 3x? 4x. And what did we just say is going to happen with positive 2y and negative 2y? It's going to cancel. So it disappears. Drop down your equals. And what's negative 2 plus 10? Positive 8. Remember, 10 is bigger, so you're going to end up with a positive number. Okay, I know this looks kind of funny. Let me write it a little better to kind of make more sense. This is times 4 times x. What's the opposite of timesing? Dividing. So we're going to do what we always do. We're going to divide. So x is 2. Okay? All right, just like on the other problems, we have to get what x is. We also have to get what y is. It doesn't matter which one you put it into. I'm going to put it into the top one because 1's smaller than 3, so it'd be easier, but it doesn't matter which one you do. I'm going to put it into the top one. Okay, do I know what x is? What is x? 2. So instead of writing x, I'm going to write 2. Then I'm going to keep going with the equation. Plus 2. Do I know what y is? No, so I have to write y equals -2. And I have to solve this one. So I draw my line. Elijah, what's going to move to the other side? And it becomes, what is -2 and -2 when you put them together? -4. Ashley, what do you do last right here? Very good. So you get -2. And we're done. All right, number two. Has something been solved for? No, so this is going to be multiply, multiply, cancel, cancel. Multiply, multiply, cancel, cancel. Does something already look like it might cancel? Yes, what? Okay, so we don't have to multiply. We can skip to the cancel, cancel. So I'm going to put a plus sign. What is 1m plus 2m? Stephen A., what happens to positive n and negative n? Disappears. Jeremy, 6 plus 3. Shakira, what do I do last right here? Very good. So m is 3. M is 3. Okay. I can plug it into the top one or the bottom one. It doesn't matter. I'm going to put it into the top one because there's less numbers. So it looks like it might be easier. All right, Brandon, do I know what m is? What is it? So I'm going to write 3. Plus, do I know what n is? Nope. So all right, n equals 6. Okay. All right, Faith, what do I have to do right here? And what moves? So I make it -3. So what's 6 minus 3? Good. All right, not too bad.
What did you get 3
for m or n?
M, like,
for this one?
Yeah.
Okay, so positive n and negative n, when you added them, canceled out.
Yeah.
And so when you put these together, m and 2m is 3m, and 6 and 3 is 9. And then this is multiply, so the opposite of multiply is to divide. Other questions? Yep. Always alphabetical. So, yep, it doesn't matter what letters, always alphabetical. Good question. Okay. I've never, all right. Okay, number three. Flip it over. Has one been solved for? No, so this is multiply, multiply, cancel, cancel. Multiply, multiply, cancel, cancel. Okay, if you look here, does anything cancel out to begin with? No, so we're going to have to multiply. There's no way, well, okay, there's different ways to do these. Different people do them different ways. I like to zone in on the one that doesn't have a number with it if possible. Do you see how this y doesn't have a number with it? So I'm going to multiply this whole thing. If I want this y, stick with me for a minute. If you want this y to cancel with that one, what number has to be in front of it to cancel with this one? -3. I'm not allowed to just put a -3 there. I have to multiply the whole top equation by -3. I have to multiply the whole top equation by -3. Okay, so what is -3 times 8? So you're going to write it right, well, I'm going to write it right underneath here. What is -3 times y? -3y. And then -3 times 12, you might have to go over to the side of your paper and work it out. 2 times 3 is 6, 1 times 3 is 3, and it's going to be a negative. You might have to do that today. You might have to go to the side of your paper. Now that I've multiplied, I'm ready to cancel stuff out. So I'm going to put my plus sign. What's -2 and -24? Good, -26. What happens with +3 and -3? Yay, they cancel. What about 10 and -36 when you add them? Again, you could do your chart. +10, -36, move it, lose it, and it's negative. Okay. All right, Riley M., what do you do last right here? By doing what? And Riley, what's -26 divided by -26? 1. Okay, so x is 1. Okay, I'm going to plug it back in to this original one because it doesn't have as many numbers. I'm going to plug it back into this original because it doesn't have as many numbers. You can plug it in wherever you want. You're going to get the same answer. But it's easiest to do it right there. All right, so I'm going to write 8. Do I know what x is? What is it? 1 plus y equals 12. What's 8 times 1? Elijah, what has to move to the other side? And so y is what? 4. Y is 4. Okay. Number 4, 5x minus 3y equals 2, x plus 2y equals 3. Has one been solved? No, so we multiply, multiply, cancel, cancel. Multiply, multiply, cancel, cancel. The easiest thing to get to cancel here would be these two things. That would be the easiest. Now, you can do it different ways. How can I get 5x to cancel with this one? What would need to be right here with this one? A -5. So a +5 would cancel with a -5. So you have to put the whole thing in parentheses, the whole thing, and you put a -5 out front. All right, Stephen A., -5 times x. And keep going, Stephen A., -5 times 2y. Very good. And -5 times 3. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to write this top one over again. You don't have to do that, but I just want people to see, I want them to have a good visual of what I'm doing. So I just wrote the top one again so that they were right next to each other. Okay. All right, so I'm going to draw my line. Brandon, what symbol am I going to put out here? Plus. Faith, -5x and +5x. Shakira, -10 and -3. Very good. Madison, -15 and +2. Very good. Chase, what do I do next? Which gives you what? All right, the easiest place to plug it in would be right there, but you can do it anywhere you wanted. So I'm going to plug it in to this one. Jack, do I know what X is? So I have to write X because I don't know what it is. Riley M, do I know what Y is? What is it? 1 equals 3. Okay. So I'm going to draw my line. Ashley, help me out right here. What's something I need to do? Okay, so numbers move over here. So what's 2 times 1? And you just move it over here, subtract it, and your X comes down. So numbers go on this side. So X is 1. So 1, 1 is your answer for that one. Okay. All right, y'all are doing great. We're almost done. All right, number 5. Number 5. Are there any like missing holes? No. Okay, so we know we're going to have to multiply, multiply, cancel, cancel. Multiply, multiply, cancel, cancel. This one we're going to have to multiply both of them. We're going to have to multiply both of them. Which set of numbers is smaller, the 6 and 8 or the 3 and 5? 3 and 5. So I'm going to choose the 3 and 5 to think about because it's smaller. I'm going to multiply this top one by 5. We'll multiply this top one by 5. Before I keep going, I want you to kind of see what I'm doing here. What's 5 times 3 going to be? 15. I'm also going to have to multiply this bottom one, and I need this to be negative 15. So this is going to give me positive 15, 5 times 3. I need this one to be negative 15. So what do I have to multiply this one by? Negative 3. So basically, you're just switching these two. You're switching those two and make one of them negative. Okay. I chose the 3 and 5 because they were smaller. You would get the same answer if you had put an 8 and a negative 6. If you had chose those two numbers to switch, you would have gotten the same answer. Okay. All right, so we're multiplying the top one by positive 5. Zach, help me with the top one. Multiply it by 5. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Very good. All right. So, Mary, help me multiply the bottom one by negative 3. Take a minute and do it. Very good. Negative 36. Okay. All right, Elijah, what symbol am I going to put out here? A plus. Putting a plus. Okay. All right, 30 plus negative 24. Very good. 6. Positive 15 and negative 15. 30 and negative 36. Negative 6. Very good. Ashley, what do I do right here? Very good. X is negative 1. X is negative 1. Okay, now we've got to go back and plug it in. It doesn't matter. Which one do y'all want to do on this one? Top one. All right, Brandon, what would I write over here to plug it in? Wonderful. Excellent, Brandon. That's perfect. Draw my line. All right, what's 6 times negative 1? Negative 6. Okay. Jack, what moves to the other side right here? So it becomes positive 6. And Madison, what do you do last? So y is 4. Okay. Number 6. Number 6. Okay. This one is like an in-between problem. This one's in between. Has either of them been solved for? No. But what do you notice about that second equation? Yes, the equals is in the wrong place. So the first thing we have to do, as if there wasn't enough to do already, is we've got to put this back in its right spot. So I'm going to write 3x. If you put negative 4y back on the spot it's supposed to be on, what does it become? Very good. It becomes addition. Plus 4y equals negative 2. So the first thing I have to do is write it like it's supposed to be written. So I've got my x's, my y's, and my numbers. I got to put it in the right spots. Okay. So this is a multiply, multiply, cancel, cancel problem. Multiply, multiply, cancel, cancel. Which one of these, so we've got a 9 and a 3. Is there any way to multiply 3 to become a 9? Yeah. What do I multiply by? Very good. And I need it to be, what cancels with positive 9? Negative 9. So I need this to be negative 9. So what do I need to make it? A negative 3. I need to make it a negative 3. So I only have to multiply this bottom one on this one, because that way it'll cancel out for me. Okay. All right, so negative 3 times 3 is negative 9. Negative 3 times 4 is negative 12. And negative 3 times negative 2 is positive 6. Okay, I'm going to write the top one underneath it just so people can see what I'm doing and not get lost. All right, so I'm going to put my plus on. Guys, negative 9 and positive 9. What happens? Negative 9x and positive 9x. They cancel. What about negative 12y and positive 12y? They cancel. That means there's a big fat 0 right there. That means there's a big fat 0 if everything cancels. What's 6 plus 9? Sorry. What's 6 plus 3? Sorry. Okay. Does 0 equal 9?
No.
So the answer is no solution. No solution. What kind of lines would those be if you graphed them? Parallel. Y'all ain't no dummies. All right, last one. Hip hip hooray. Okay. Is this one been solved? No, so what method are we doing? Thank you. Multiply, multiply, cancel, cancel. What do we want to multiply the top one by? Okay, I hear a 5, which I like. What's 5 times negative 2 going to give us? Negative 10. Does negative 10 cancel with positive 10? You don't want to make this one a negative 5, because what would negative 5 times negative 2 be? Positive 10. Would positive 10 cancel with a positive 10? No. So this one you just want positive 5 because it's already negative. Okay. Jack, what do you get when you multiply the top one by 5?
Negative 10. Negative 20y.
Uh-huh.
10.
I'm going to put my plus sign out front. Positive 10x and negative 10x. Cancel. Positive 20y and negative 20y. Cancel. So that gives me a big fat 0. Negative 10 and positive 10. Cancel. Gives me another 0. Does 0 equal 0? Always. It always does. To infinity and beyond. to infinity and beyond. 0 will always equal 0. An infinite amount of times, 0 will always equal 0. Infinitely many times, 0 equals 0. All right, time for an on your own.